Coming up on Retiring Well with Michael Reese.
But the idea is if you build your portfolio using this model, what you're going to find if you do this the right way, retirement ends up being pretty stress-free. You don't have to worry about money a whole lot. You want to take advantage of your tax brackets, but if you can transition from taxable accounts like IRAs, because they are going to be very taxable later in your life, to Roth IRAs, which are tax-free for the rest of your life, well, clearly, if you can do that in a way that makes sense, you want to do that.
Now, the host of Retiring Well, Michael Reese.
Welcome to the show today. We have 30 minutes of action-packed information specifically designed for you. Retiring Well starts right here, right now.
Retiring Well with Michael Reese, helping you make smart decisions with your money so you can live a better life. Today is the day you can take back control of your money. Retiring Well with Michael Reese, where we believe your best is yet to come.
This week in CFP Talk, I want to share with you a model that if you use this model with your retirement planning, you're going to find yourself in really good shape. Now, obviously, there are ways and techniques you can use this model more effectively or less effectively, depending on how good you are at using the tools within this model. But nevertheless, I want to share with you the big picture. When we work with people in our offices, this is the model that we use, and it works really well. So let's go ahead and share with you what's going on here. We start out up here with your savings. So let's say you're getting ready to retire, and you retire with whatever amount it is that you have saved. It might be $500,000, it might be $1 million, it might be $300,000, it might be $2 million, whatever the number is. The very first thing we do, right over here, we say, let's set up an emergency fund. That's what you need to do. You need to set up an emergency fund. Now, if you've ever read anything about, how much money should you have set aside for emergencies, everybody says the same thing, 3 to 6 months of your income. So if you are spending, say $6,000 a month, they would say, well, you need somewhere between, 3 would be $18,000 to $36,000. You need about maybe $25,000, $30,000 in your emergency fund is what most financial people would say. Now, I'll tell you this. If you're retired or you're nearing retirement, I would rather see something along the lines of 6 to 12 months of spending up here. In other words, if you're spending $6,000 a month, that's $72,000 a year, I want to see somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 in your emergency fund, because in retirement, you just seem to need liquid money a little more often. Simple as that. Once you've done that, the next thing we do is we say, all right, now we need to get some money potentially in IPA. What does IPA stand for? It stands for income producing assets. Now, whether you know it or not, you already have, everybody out there has some IPA out there. For example, Social Security, that's an income producing asset. You might have a pension, also an income producing asset. Now, you might have real estate. You would say that's an income producing asset. We don't count it here. We don't put real estate here because in this particular category, that money is typically lifetime income that's guaranteed to come to you no matter what. And if you own real estate, that income, if your renter leaves, if you don't have any renters in there for 3 or 4 months, you have no income, so it's not guaranteed. That goes somewhere else. I'll show you where. But anyway, we want to make sure that you have sufficient income producing assets to address your lifestyle needs. You want to have enough money coming in every month so that you're okay no matter what. The next bucket over here, that's conservative growth. This is for, we'll call it the extras. What if you want to go on that cruise, that one trip, it's a bucket list trip. Hey, you want to have an account that you can go get money that is very low volatility where, we don't have to worry about the markets being up or down. If you want to go, the money's there, you can go. So conservative growth. designed to get some decent returns, but very little risk. The next one out here is our growth bucket. This is where you are going to have those crazy ups and downs. This is where we have more of that risk. And the goal in this is to help fight inflation, maybe longer-term healthcare kinds of needs. In other words, we need part of your portfolio growing over time because things like inflation may affect you if you live a long time, or healthcare expenses may get you out there. And then the last bucket out here is alts. That's alternatives. If you own rental real estate, that's where this one falls. Maybe you want to use limited partnerships or private investments. Alts, it's out here. What's going on in this type of platform is this side is lower risk, it's safer. This side is more risk. But the idea is if you build your portfolio using this model, what you're going to find if you do this the right way, retirement ends up being pretty stress-free. You don't have to worry about money a whole lot because guess what? This model works. You just have to set it up the right way. Now, of course, if you have questions about this or anything else we talk about on the show, please pick up the phone, give us a call. We'd love to talk.
It's your retirement. How will you live it? How will you be remembered?
Will you be able to take me on vacation?
Will you be there for my ball games?
Will you teach me your values? You'll be able to play with me.
Oh, help me go to college. How will I remember you?
Have the retirement you dream about. Contact us today.
You've worked hard for your money and your best is yet to come. You've reached a point where you don't put your money at risk anymore. The road ahead doesn't scare you because your money is secure and working for you. Centennial Wealth Advisory, portfolio stability, tax reduction strategies, lifetime income, financial security in any economy.
Welcome to another edition of True or False with Michael Reese. I'm Craig Sear, and Mike, are you ready for another couple of questions this week?
Let's rock and roll.
Okay, first up, true or false, annuities are always bad?
Always, always bad. Okay, well, you know my answer to this one. My answer, you could have said mutual funds are always bad. Stocks are always bad. Bonds are always bad. Real estate is always bad. Throw in anything is always bad. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just always going to call that one false. I don't believe that there's any tool that is always bad, but the reverse is also true. There's no such thing as any tool is always good either. Right. And, we talk about this a lot in the office. There's no silver bullet. Folks, no silver bullet. There is no tool that is either always good or always bad. No. What happens is whenever you do your planning, everyone's different, right? I mean, you're putting together plans for people every day. Are any two the same?
No. They're
always different. And the key is not, is a tool, whether it's annuity, a mutual fund, a stock, a bond, real estate, it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as, is it always good or is it always bad? The question really more is, to what degree do those tools, are they appropriately supporting the planning that that we're putting together for people? So if we're putting together planning that requires growth, we're probably using some type of stock or some kind of exchange-traded fund that helps to generate growth, right? But if we're using income, maybe bonds or annuities are more appropriate, or real estate might be appropriate there. So no silver bullet, no absolutes here. No all right, all good, all bad. It's more about, is the tool being used for the reason it's designed? Is it appropriate for the part of the plan that it's been tasked to, for the problem it's been tasked to solve, right?
Right. Next, true or false, very few investors are prepared for the next stock market correction.
Oh, hey, as you're watching this, that's right, you at home, that's a big, fat true. Very few investors are prepared. And man, we have such a short memory, don't we? I mean, we don't, gosh, here it is, it's 2016, as we record this. We're at the end of 2016. Last time, it's been since 2008. We're coming up on 8 years since we've last seen the markets really tank. I mean, we've seen like little dips along the way, right? But nothing significant. Yet, historically, markets have big drops, like every 3-4 years on average, right?
Right.
So, I mean, think about this as you're at home. You know what? Every day people come to the office and say, I've been doing really well. My investments have been doing real well, right? Of course they have. It's been a bull market. How easy? And then we say, well, how'd you do in 2008? Oh, yeah, I remember back then. But guess what? For a lot of people we talk to, even if they're retired today, in 2008, they were working back then. You were probably working back then. If the markets tank when you're working, you can live with that. In fact, it allows you as you're investing to buy more shares cheap, and that's fine. But what if you're retired? What if you're within a year or two, a couple of years of retirement? What happens then if the markets tank on you?
Well, then you're not within a year or two of retirement.
You're no longer within a year or two of retirement, right? Now you're back to 5 or 6 years away. Or if you're already retired, it's like, holy cow, this is all the money you've got. This is it. There's going to be no more unless you get some kind of, big inheritance or something, right?
And there were cases in 2006, 2007 where people were about to retire and 2008 set them back, and they're just now getting to it now.
That's right. Here it is. 8 years later, and now they can retire because markets crashed at the wrong time. Don't let that happen to you. This is one of the biggest reasons you need to come visit with us. So you need to call the number and come visit because, gosh darn it, we don't want that. Don't let that happen to you. When do you want to find out if you're prepared for markets tanking? Do you want to find out after it's happened and you lost a bunch of money? Or maybe, here's a crazy idea, what if you had an analysis done now before markets go south, right? And let's find out what your exposure is so that if you don't like that answer, you can actually do something about it, right?
Right. Well, thanks again, Mike. If you've got any questions about the level of risk you might be taking in your portfolio or a question about anything else, always feel free to give us a call and we'll help you figure it out.
Your grandchildren are precious to you. They are your life. This is your time to have that special relationship. Taking care of yourself is taking care of them. Centennial Wealth Advisory is offering a free, no-obligation retirement review to make sure you don't run out of money during your retirement. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
Centennial Wealth Advisory, your independent retirement planning specialists, now in 3 convenient locations in northern Michigan. 818 Red Drive in Traverse City, 3890 Charlevoix Avenue in Petoskey, and 3687 Old 27th South in Gaylord. Contact us at 888-608-5825 or visit send-wealth.com to schedule your no-obligation complete retirement review at any of our northern Michigan locations, Traverse City, Petoskey, or Gaylord. Centennial Wealth Advisory. Your best is yet to come.
This week in IRA Focus, we want to talk about those old 401k plans. Those 401k plans that you have at those old companies that you used to work at. And the question we're going to talk about is simply this. Is it okay to leave your money in those old 401k plans? Or should you transfer that money to an IRA that you control? I'm going to give you 3 reasons today why you should not leave money in an old 401k, why you should transfer that to an IRA that you control. All right, here we go. Reason number 1 has to do with investment options. I had a gentleman come to my office here, I guess it was last week, And he brought a 401k from his old company. He said, yeah, I've got this old 401k. What do you recommend I do with it? And I said, well, let's take a look and see what kind of options you have to invest in. And so he brought out his sheet of paper, and do you know what? He had a total of 6 funds from Vanguard he could choose from. That's it. 6 funds. That was his entire menu of options. Now, hopefully at your 401k, you've got more than that. I mean, hopefully you have maybe 20 or 30 funds at least, or something along those lines. But here's the thing. I told this guy, I said, hey, if you move this to an IRA, instead of having just 6 different funds to pick from, we have thousands. We could invest in anything. You don't even have to have funds. You could buy individual stocks, individual bonds. You could buy real estate trusts. You could buy annuities. You could buy, you can't do life insurance, but you could do, all kinds of things. All kinds of exchange traded funds, all kinds of stuff. Why would you limit yourself if you don't have to? You can always do a better job building a portfolio if you do not have limitations versus having those limitations. So number 1, more investment options. That's all by itself, that's a reason to move. Now let's look at reason number 2. Reason number 2 has to do with Roth conversions. It's a really good idea to convert IRA dollars to Roth IRA dollars, if you can, over a number of years. You want to take advantage of your tax brackets, but if you can transition from taxable accounts like IRAs, because they are going to be very taxable later in your life, to Roth IRAs, which are tax-free for the rest of your life, well, clearly, if you can do that in a way that makes sense, you want to do that. If you're in an old 401k, those conversions are next to impossible. They're very difficult, if at all possible. But if you have that money moved to an IRA, you can convert bits and pieces. You don't even have to convert it all. You can do bits and pieces on a schedule that fits you, and you end up in a lot better position. So there you go. Reason number 2 was Roth conversions. What's reason number 3? Reason number 3 is consolidation and simplicity. No kidding. Had someone come to my office a couple days ago. They brought all their statements. Do you know how many old 401k plans they had? They had 5. 5 different accounts. They had money because they moved from job to job. They had money in 5 different 401ks, and they didn't work at any of those companies anymore. 5. And I said, well, gee, why don't we just put all this in one IRA for him, one IRA for her? It's that simple. You don't have to have all these different accounts. It makes life so much easier, and it makes it a lot easier to track the results of these different accounts. And in their case, they're like, what? I can do that? That's awesome. My point is, no reason to have all these different accounts. Make life easy on yourself and consolidate your reporting. So far I've given you what? 3 reasons, right? Reason is, number 1, more investment options, number 2, Roth conversion, and number 3, consolidation. Well, what if you're sitting there, you're saying, well, gee, I'm 62, I'm still working, and all my money's in my 401k, and I want to get it into an IRA. I don't want to wait till I retire. I want to get into an IRA now. Well, here's the good news. You may have access to something called an in-service rollover. That means in-service rollover means before you retire, moving money from your 401k to an IRA where you can do all these other things. That may make sense for you. You want to make sure you talk to a financial advisor to see if that's a good idea or not. Now, once again, as I say every week, if you have questions about this or anything else we talk about on the show, please give us a call. Here at Centennial Wealth, when we talk about your best is yet to come, what we're really referring to is that retirement is different today.
Retirement represents a fundamental change, yet most people don't match that with the fundamental change in their investments. Too often we see couples and individuals sticking with the same strategy that got them to retirement and not adjusting to a plan that will get them through retirement.
People who retire today are living 20, 30 years. And when you have that kind of time frame, you have the time to pursue the things that are meaningful to you, that are fulfilling to you.
In looking at your retirement income, you're no longer drawing a paycheck from the company you work for. Instead, you have to be the provider of that income. You don't want to leave this to chance, so we help clients evaluate all of their options to help provide the best solution based on their needs.
Most people in their working years put money into IRAs and 401ks because they wanted to push the tax off to their retirement years when they expected they would be in a lower tax bracket. Far too often, though, they find themselves in the same lifestyle, in the same bracket, and all they did is kick the can down the road.
Well, I'm happy to share with you, we have helped guide hundreds of families past that point into a future that is absolutely bright.
Although it's not fun to discuss, it's vital that we evaluate your life insurance and long-term care planning. The insurance world changes regularly, and you need to know that we're keeping you abreast of today's ever-changing environment.
The three biggest threats to our retirement savings is what we call the hit list. There's healthcare, inflation, and taxes. People can't afford to run out of money, so they have to plan for these things.
If you make smart choices about your money, then you have nothing to worry about.
No retirement plan is complete or properly constructed unless you have an estate plan in place.
We'll regularly bring in an estate planning attorney to speak with our clients to ensure that their estate planning is structured properly.
Today we see people with Social Security, no pension, and everything else in their retirement savings. The challenge is to turn that savings into retirement income that can last their lifetime, not subject to market fluctuations.
We want you to be confident. We know you can be confident. We've done it before. We can do it for you.
Welcome to Coffee Talk with Centennial Wealth Advisory. I'm Mark Canfield. I'm here with my colleagues John Torbett and Larry Flynn. And very often when we're in meetings with folks here in our office, they ask very common questions that we hear over and over again, and we thought it'd be nice to share those with you today. So the first up, we got a question here that gets asked quite often, I believe.
Yep, I'm going to fire it back your way here, Art.
Okay.
I know there are some new rules associated with financial advisors having to meet some new fiduciary standard. Can you tell me what that is about, and are you one?
Wow. Talk about a very complex question right now in the compliance world of investing. There's so many rule changes going on right now in the investment world, really trying to protect the investor. And all, I think, led with good intention for the most part. Making all investment advisors fiduciaries is the goal, meaning that you have to act in the client's best interest. Seems odd, doesn't it, that has to be made a rule. Centennial Wealth Advisory is a fiduciary and has been a fiduciary for some time now. So this rule change is really not anything too surprising really to us. But of course, with anything, there's going to be changes, and clients, you know, and people in the investment world, you're going to see those at some point or another come along where there's going to be additional paperwork. There may be some disclosures you're going to have to sign, and so on and so forth. Everybody's still kind of working through and wading through this Department of Labor's ruling to really get to the bottom of what all this means. You know, Larry, you've been in the investment world for a long time. You've seen some of these new rules come and go, and I think we were talking the other day. You said the best thing there's, you know, overall, is it really going to make a difference in what the way maybe a financial advisor makes a recommendation? You know, probably just another 20 pages of paperwork, right?
Yeah, I hope it does. I mean, they've now made it the law that, you know, somebody has to, an advisor has to act in the best interest of the client, right? But, you know, it was kind of watered down in the sense that it didn't stop them from selling anything they wanted to sell. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're going to still be able to sell anything they want. Now they just have to prove that that was in their best interest, right? They have to enter into a best interest contract with them. I just hope that contract doesn't look like a prospectus with a mutual fund where they're basically people are signing away all the disclosures because it was all in this fine print that they did not read. You know what I mean? So.
And wasn't the statistic that you found on, I think TD Ameritrade did the study and found that like what, 5% of financial advisors fell under the fiduciary standard. So basically 5% fell under this fiduciary standard, which we're proud to say Centennial Wealth Advisory is part of that 5%. But that means 95% fell under the suitability standard, where they just had to recommend suitable investments for clients. So
probably the good thing out of this that I think is going to come out is now at least the law that they have to act in the best interest. So you're probably going to see people have a lot more lawsuits where they find the advisor wasn't acting in their best interest. I mean, there's a little more teeth in it now that people can fall back on.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's ask a question here. I wish I'd have known about Roth IRAs sooner. So how can I get into them if I have everything in a traditional IRA right now, if I should get in at all?
Yeah. People love Roth IRAs. I mean, when they can look at them and say, this is a pot of money that, you know, tax has been paid on, and it's grown tax deferred, and now when I take it out, I don't have to pay any tax on it at all. I mean, wouldn't you want ideally everything in a Roth, right? So as soon as people hear about it, they think, all right, how can I get into them? Unfortunately, they've been probably part of a 401k their whole life, or been putting into their IRA, and now that pot of money they have is all taxable, you know. So now they're saying, how can I get that from this pot to the other tax-free pot, right? Well, unfortunately, they can't necessarily contribute any longer to a Roth, especially if they're not working, right? If they are, they might want to start, or if they have a 401k that has a Roth option, you're finding people now starting to do more of that. But really, their only option is converting their IRA to a Roth, and that's a pretty tricky situation because now you got to pay tax on that, right?
Right, and that's where annual tax planning needs to play a role in your overall retirement plan. I mean, you should be looking, not investments are obviously a very important piece, but the tax side of it is just as important, if not more important, especially when you're getting to that stage where, okay, now I'm getting to closer to retirement. How is this income going to look like for me in retirement, and evaluating what taxes you're paying today versus in the future, and then ultimately evaluating if Roth IRAs should play a role.
It always makes me scratch my head when people are putting money in blindly and not looking ahead at the future, not doing tax planning, as you said, John. You know, Larry, with your tax experience, you know, this idea that you were saving money, putting in an IRA, you know, sounds great, right? But then when people get into retirement and they want to pull money out, they're not so happy about that great plan at that point. But so consider it, right? Look ahead, plan for that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the idea was we're going to save at this rate because we're in our working years, and then when we pull it out, we're going to be in retirement. We're going to be in this lower bracket, right? That's the idea. Typically, right, guys, we're finding 90% of the time clients are pretty much in the same tax bracket, same lifestyle. Really, all they did was kick the can down the road. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on another segment of Coffee Talk with Centennial Wealth Advisory. If you have any questions that are similar to this or different that would help you, please give us a call at the number on the screen, and have a great day.
Thanks everyone for watching the show today. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to call our office or visit our website. And remember, you only retire once, so let's get it right the first time. We'll see you next week.